that time again where we preview everything on Oregon athletics for this upcoming weekend. I'm Haley Bricker.
And I'm Courtney Bodine, and this is Duck TV Sports. Tonight we'll talk some softball, some baseball, and show you a once-in-a-lifetime interview we scored. You know, casual. Haley, what's the lowdown?
Well, Courtney, Kate Fagan, an ESPNW writer, came to the UO campus last week for a public talk where she discussed Split Image, a piece based on the tragic story of a University of Pennsylvania runner. Our own Gabby Urenda got an exclusive interview with Kate to discuss her feature writing. Gabby?
Thanks, guys. I'm here with writer and columnist Kate Fagan from ESPNW. Kate, how are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Great. We're happy to have you. More to like your feature writing and everything else. Split Image has gotten a lot of attention in the past year and still now. How did you go about writing that piece when it was such a touchy subject?
A lot of time, a lot of patience, because it felt like one of those stories that you either needed to have the cooperation and the insight from her family, or you weren't going to be able to do anything meaningful anyway. So that story was a year in the making, from when at ESPNW we first decided to do it to when we actually published it online and on in the magazine. It was definitely a hard process as a writer because you have this story you want to tell, and until you actually introduce it to the world, it's like it's in your head and you're like the guardian, the custodian of it, which is how I felt about that story more than I'd ever felt about any other story. It was like I was its custodian, and there was a level of, I think, pressure that I think all storytellers feel because you want to tell it in the most breathtaking way possible because you're like, this is so important. And I'm the one who's been allowed to write it, so I better write it or tell it in the most smart, impactful, meaningful way, or else I'm not doing it justice.
Kind of felt a little bit like that just from reading your memoir. You kind of were in that same spot where you did feel lonely in college and you didn't really know what was wrong with any of that. Did you ever feel like, I can take the easy way out like Madison, or did your faith kind of keep you more grounded in the environment that you were in?
I'm having trouble answering that question because I'm actually just noticing what a great transition that was by you. That was a very good transition from one question to the next question asking. There are a lot of similarities between what I think Madison was probably going through and then my memoir in terms of finding yourself in a place where you're questioning your identity and the choices you've made. And the best case scenario with the Madison story would have been if it did become a coming of age story. Mm-hmm. And of course it wouldn't have been told because these things happen every day. Is like a young person working through something and then finding who they are, and then it becomes a coming of age story. And then you have lessons that you've learned from it, which is what I hope, my memoir is talking about is like, okay, I was in sort of a place where I didn't feel accepted and I felt like an outsider, but again, I wasn't battling with mental health issues, which adds a different variable.
Okay, well, thank you, Kate.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Gabby. To watch the full interview with Kate Fagan, visit our website at dtvsports.wix.com/home, the UO Duck TV YouTube channel, or the Duck TV Sports Facebook page.
Now over to the Diamond. The Oregon Ducks softball team has had quite the season and they just keep going. After ranking number 5 in the NCAA and taking the Pac-12 title, the Ducks hosted the regionals this past weekend, where Oregon, Fordham, Baylor, and Long Beach State would compete for one super regional spot. The Ducks would compete against Baylor on Sunday after Long Beach State and Fordham fell out in the end. The Ducks were the dominant team. The Ducks take on the UCLA Bruins this weekend in the super regionals.
Switching over to the other Diamond, the Ducks baseball team heads south to Palo Alto, California to play their last series of the regular season. Coming off a series win against Arizona last weekend, the Ducks are motivated to sweep the series against the Stanford Cardinal. Oregon needs this series win to amp up their chances of winning the Pac-12 title. Leading the Pac-12 currently is Utah, followed by Washington. If they drop in the standings, Oregon can win the Pac-12 championship title for the first time since 1964.
Now that would be icing on the cake for Coach George Horton and his career this far. Now we send it over to Angelica Angeles, who highlights 3 athletes to look out for in this week's Triple Threat. Take it away, Angelica.
Thanks, Courtney. For this week's Triple Threat, it's all about the pitchers. We will be highlighting baseball's Cole Irvin and Steven Nagosic and softball's Megan Kleiss. To begin, let's head over to Jane Sanders Stadium, where freshman pitcher Megan Kleiss dominated the mound in the first round of the NCAA Regionals. In her first NCAA Regionals appearance against the Fordham Rams, Kleiss showed maturity and perseverance in the circle. Kleiss helped the Ducks keep the Rams off the board, allowing 6 hits with a strikeout, 0 home runs, and no walks in 5 innings pitched. Kleiss led the Ducks to an 8-0 run-ruled victory. Allowing just 12 walks in 26 appearances, Kleiss continues to make an impact and has shown confidence as the season continues. Now let's head over to PK Park. Junior pitcher Cole Irvin was off to a powerful start Friday to begin the 3-game series against the Arizona Wildcats. Irvin struck out the 6 of the first 7 batters he faced. The left-hander allowed 4 hits and 1 walk in over 7 1/3 innings. PK Park has been good for Irvin. In his last 3 appearances at home, he has thrown 17.1 scoreless innings, 19 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Friday's game was Irvin's 8th quality start of the season, twice as many as anyone else on the staff. On to our next pitcher, junior Steven Nagosic took over for Irvin in Friday's game to shut out the Wildcats. And even though he loaded the bases with a walk, he was able to get out of the inning with a double play. Nagosic earned his 14th save by pitching around the single in the 9th inning. Nagosic is also one of the finalists for the Golden Spikes Award, which is given to the best amateur baseball players in the country. Well, that wraps up this week's Triple Threat. Back to you ladies at the desk.
Thanks, Angelica. That's all we have time for in this week's episode, but be sure to catch Duck TV Sports next week for a special on-location finale.
As always, make sure you stay updated with the latest on Oregon athletics by visiting our website.
And follow us on Instagram at DTV Sports and Twitter at Duck TV Sports for game coverage and more.
We at Duck TV Sports want to thank all the men and women who have sacrificed their lives for this country. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.